Hey everyone, it's Adam Farkas. Welcome to another ODwire webinar. And tonight is all about the presbyopia opportunity. Now, before we get started, I'd like to just lay down some ground rules and instructions for everyone so you know how it all works. If you've been to one of our webinars before, you'll know this is sort of an interactive thing. On the right side of your screen, you should have a box that has a link that says questions on it. And if you click on that, you can ask questions during the show. And what we're going to do is a little Q&A at the very end. So I'll hold your questions aside, but you can ask as we're going on. And if there's anything that you need urgently, just put the question in there, and I can help you as the presentation goes on. Okay, so let's get started here. So all about presbyopia. And as many of you know, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, being an emerging presbyope and a lifelong contact lens wearer at that. So, as this came up, middle age sort of came up upon me, this became a much more relevant topic to me. And growing up with my father and his practice, in the olden days, there wasn't that much you could do. The technology wasn't really there. But over the past couple of decades, I mean, things have really advanced in the field of presbyopia. And that's fortunate, right? Because now, as you can see, and we're going to learn tonight, the demographic opportunity is there. And the patient base is there to really take advantage of all of these new opportunities. And fortunately, tonight we have an expert who's going to talk to us all about it. We have Dr. Pamela Lowe, who's the owner of Professional Eye Care Center in Niles, Illinois. She earned her OD degree at ICO, where she was named Alumnus of the Year in 2002. And I'm sure you've actually seen her out on the road. She's written extensively. She lectures at conferences all around the country. And if you're from Illinois, you also know that she's the past president of the Illinois Optometric Association. So I can't think of anybody better to talk to us about this opportunity tonight. So Dr. Lowe, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, Adam, thanks so much. It's great to be with everyone. And like you said, I believe opportunity is definitely the key word in this talk. And I can't wait to go over the numbers when we talk about the presbyopic opportunity. But really, when you just look as primary eye care doctors in general, where can we have the opportunity to really make a difference in our patients' lives? And I know in my practice now, practicing 31 years, and 27 years on my own and trying to keep my practice vital for my younger associates to eventually take over. We see the main opportunity in young patients with the myopia epidemic, right? So if we start having technologies in our practice and start utilizing ways to really help manage myopia, we're really improving our young patients' lives. And then with our older patients, we know the opportunity for catching macular degeneration early is key. Everyone's getting older and living longer. So AMD is the leading cause of vision loss once we're 50 and older. So we have this whole crop of patients where we can make a difference by utilizing technologies to help that. And then in all age groups, dry eye is just rampant everywhere. So all of our patients are at risk for dry eye, and implementing technologies to improve patients' outcomes with dryness is just a huge opportunity. But when it comes to contact lenses, there's never been a larger opportunity when we talk with presbyopia. And Adam, I felt your pain for a long time. You're pre-presbyopic, emerging presbyope. I've been firmly presbyopic for a while. So really excited to talk about this topic tonight. So let me advance here. And just always when we start a talk, disclosures, I have no financial interest if any of the folks listening use the Alcon products we're going to talk about tonight. I just have a passion for talking about things that change my patients' lives and improve their quality of vision. We will be talking with the FDA approved labeling of these of the lenses we're going to talk about, and we'll stay on label with that. So again, let's look at that opportunity. Look at these numbers. Nearly 126 million folks by next year in 2020 will be established or emerging presbyopes. So when you tease that out with how many optometrists, about 44,000 of us around the country practicing, and you add those numbers up of potential presbyopic patients and current presbyopic patients, it's nearly 3,000 patients per optometrist in the US. So again, the opportunity is just ripe for the taking to really enhance our presbyopic patients' lives. But if we're going to do that and maximize that great opportunity we have in the multifocal contact lens space, what are the key components we need to be successful with it. I think anything you implement in your practice or start having a passion for and really want to make a difference in your practice with, you have to, what are the strategies to make it successful. So really, especially when it comes to presbyopia, as we're going to see from the numbers, patient education and awareness is woefully lacking. So that's number one. We have to start utilizing ways in our practice to educate our patients what presbyopia is and what their visual options are. And when we talk about multifocal contacts and start fitting those more in our practice, it's super important that every doctor in the practice, if there's multiple doctors, every staff person in the practice has the same message, and they know the benefits of multifocal contacts, and they can seamlessly talk to patients about it. It really is a practice-wide commitment. I like to joke, and when we're having staff meetings, I say, who's the most important person in this office? And, as doctors, we like to think it's us, but really, I point to our front desk person and I say, you are the most important person in this office, because that's the face of our practice. And when patients call, that's the first person they hear. So it's just really important that that person has the multifocal contact lens message as it is the tech running the patient through, and then the doctor seeing the patient, and then the handoff to the optical. Everyone needs to be committed to giving that multifocal message. And then, of course, multifocal contacts need to really work, right? If they're going to give our patients the visual freedom from their spectacles that we want, they have to enhance their vision and enhance their lifestyle and really free them up from the glasses that they want to get free from. I know in the 80s, when I was in my training at ICO, we didn't have a lot of multifocal lens options. The technologies was just emerging, and monovision was the thing. Everyone's world was driving and then reading the paper up close, and we didn't have all these intermediate demands that we have now. So really, multifocal lenses have really risen to the occasion to meet those visual demands of our patients. But really, in a busy practice, you need a lens that works, right? So we need a multifocal lens that has an easy fitting process that we know is going to give us a successful outcome and limit our chair time with that. Because when I'm finishing up with my presbyopic patient, but my diabetic patient who was dilating before them is ready for me, and then I'm getting buzzed that there's an urgent care visit coming in, I need to know that I can have a lens that I could fit easily and that will work. So let's look again at the patient need here. Look at these numbers. 30% of the population are potential candidates for multifocal lenses, but sadly, we're fitting less than 10% of those folks. And when you look at contact lens dropouts, especially when we're getting towards those presbyopic years, we know the main reason patients drop out of contact lenses is comfort and vision. And what happens when you become presbyopic? You have a different visual demand that is a little bit more challenging to meet. And then you have a compromised anterior segment. So again, patients tend to drop out at that age group because of comfort and vision. But when they surveyed folks that were presbyopic and stopped wearing their contact lenses, this is the sad part as a profession, well over half of them didn't even know that multifocal lenses exist. And that's sad because that onus is on us. So again, talking about the opportunity when those folks who dropped out were asked, would you want to wear contacts again? Overwhelmingly, the majority of them said yes. So if we're not offering our patients multifocal contact lens options, we're really missing out on a great opportunity to differentiate ourselves, mainly to satisfy our patients. And we know when we differentiate ourselves and satisfy our patients, we're definitely going to have practice growth. So really, you can see from the numbers here, it's just so important that we get the message out about multifocal contact lenses. And when we do talk and educate our patients about what presbyopia is and that lack of, being able to see the tiny print up close, we really need to be mindful that it's really more than just a visual blur problem at near. There's a lot of emotions that go into presbyopia. So you can see here from these numbers of emerging presbyopes when they first have their symptoms, well over half feel like they're getting old. They may have been in good general health all their life and now they can't read. oh man, I'm getting old, right? And then that causes frustration. Some are in denial. Some get anxious about that or sad. But it's really important when we're talking to the patient about their changing visual needs at near, that we recognize that there's emotions that go behind it and really educate them that this is a very normal thing that happens to all healthy eyes. So this would be weird if it didn't happen to you. So you give them that message in a little bit better way. But I think there's nothing more compelling than listening to a patient talk about what they feel when they first learn they're presbyopic. So Adam, if you can run the video, please.
I could see things in distance, but I couldn't see things close up. So if I was doing here, I'd have to have my glasses on. And then to talk to a client, I'd take them off, put them on top of my head. First of all, it was just a pain. Second of all, I was always, putting them down, forgetting where they were. And I just didn't like the look of it. I felt like I looked old. And then I came for a glasses appointment, and we started talking about contacts. She knew immediately what I was looking for. She suggested that I try the Dailies Total One Multifocal. Actually, they feel like nothing. They just don't feel like you have anything in your eye. So with these, there was just never an issue. It was literally, I put them on in the morning, and honestly, I never thought about them. It's like, wash face, brush your teeth, put your contacts in. I've told everybody that I know, just go and try these. It's just nice to not have to hide behind the glasses anymore.
So as you can hear from that patient, really, this is a woman who is in a youthful profession, right? She's a hairdresser. She youthful look is all about what she's about. And, just giving her that visual freedom is just so important for anybody, but especially patients like that who are merging. And still, again, when 51% of the patients feel old, we give them an option not to feel that way by wearing reading glasses. So when we look at who our presbyopic patient is, so again, I graduated at the end of the 80s. When someone came into the clinic and was presbyopic, when I'm in my 20s, right, they were old. They walked a little slower. They were wearing a flat top 25 bifocal because there weren't very many progressives back then. And so, of course, me being my 20s, that patient seemed old to me. But life was very different then. Today's presbyope is me. I'm the tail end of the baby boom. Baby boomers are all firmly presbyopic. So, talk about the numbers, sheer numbers of boomers out there that we can be really changing their life, because we know not only baby boomers, but emerging presbyopes all lead active lives. We're all either in careers that we are retiring from early because we've been successful, or we're working longer because we love what we do. This age group all embrace technology just because we have to, right? We all carry cell phones, smartphones, computers right on our belts and in our purses. But again, market research shows that this is a group of folks that are very image conscious. So if we can avoid them from feeling older by putting reading glasses on, how awesome is that? And as a baby boomer, I know this fact that millennials just overtook us in numbers because us older baby boomers are passing, but baby boomers hold the purse string of the US. So if you can wow me, I have the want and need and the disposable income to do that. So again, not missing out on an opportunity to really change our patients' lives if we're not offering these multifocal lenses. But I want to take a closer look here at what Alcon calls their 3-2-1 advantage. And you got to love the marketing folks, because they really can come up with these nice slogans for us, but really puts everything in perspective. And we certainly can't fit just one family of lenses, but why I have such a passion for the Alcon family of multifocal lenses is it really gives us three options, 3 different unique materials to meet our patients' anterior segment needs, 2 replacement schedules, and I know in our practice we love growing our single-use healthy disposable wear. So I love that I have 2 of those 3 materials that are on that single-use platform. And then I have, for those patients who have the want or need for reusing their lenses, I have a great monthly option. The great thing about those 3 different materials is that they're all on one same optical design. So as we'll see in a moment, we have the same recipe with 3 different lenses to fit our patients' lifestyle needs. That get us to our endpoint and get them seeing well. Dailies Total One, we know that the technology of that water gradient lens, we have the most breathable, comfortable lens because every part of that lens that touches my patient's eye is water. So with a presbyopic patient, I start with Dailies Total One. But how cool is it that I have a second option in that daily category if for some reason Dailies Total One isn't a good fit for the patient? I have that great unique technology of the Dailies Aqua Comfort Plus. And we all know that that material is so unique because of the blink activated moisture release. So I have that great option for my patient. And then again, if I have a patient that would prefer a monthly material, how cool is it that we have the Air Optics material, which that Lotrafilcon B. So, really a no-brainer. I have 3 great options for me. I love the single-use lenses, 2 great options with that. So let's look a little bit at the design of the lens. So this is where Alcon has really hit it out of the ballpark. We talked about before that life back in the 80s was you drove and then our near needs were reading books or reading the Sunday paper up close. And we didn't have a lot of intermediate demands because computers just didn't exist then. Now we have very challenging demands at all distances. So Alcon has their precision profile design on their multifocal lens that is a near center, which is what we use for most of our presbyopic patients. But it's an aspheric design that really is such a smooth transition from that near prescription all the way out to the distance. I like to think of it like an infinity pool. It just is such a smooth transition that there's no jump and the vision is just seamless at all the distances for the patient. And because it's like that infinity pool, when I'm choosing the power for the patient, which we'll go over in a moment, that they may be looking through more minus or a little less plus because of the design of the lens. It just doesn't stop. Let's say if I pick a -2, it's not stopping at -2. The design is just flowing and my patient may be looking through -2.25 or -250. So that's why it's so important that this design, really you follow the fit guide to be successful with it. So let's look at the fit guide here. This is what's great. Alcon actually keeps improving everything. This is the 4th iteration of the original fit guide that came out when the lens design was first launched. But this is what's so cool. They call it their 2-step fitting process. So the initial lens you fit for the patient is their spherical equivalent, vertex corrected Mohs Plus. And then right out of the gate, you add a +1/4 to that. And if you pick the ad correctly and put that on the patient's eyes, 80% of the time, you are at the last lens you're going to need. How do we pick the ad for this design? That's what's key. You don't look at the spectacle ad for the patient. You actually look at the first click of plus that gets them seeing 20/20. So sometimes that's very different than what I'm going to prescribe in a spectacle correction for the presbyope. So that's one of the key features of the fit guide. And then once we have those lenses settle for 5 to 10 minutes, I get my patients out of the room and I do my over refraction, pushing more plus for the patient to see what they can take, because again, they might be looking through more minus or less plus. And if I do that correctly, almost every time with the second lens change, if I get an over refraction, I'm there. I'm done. So again, it's super important that if you just follow the recipe, you're going to get to your endpoint quicker. and patients are going to love the vision. One thing I love about this unique design, it really drives binocularity. You always use the same ad on each eye with these patients. It's not a modified monovision, and that's one of the reasons the fit success is so great. So really, if you're going to capture the presbyopic opportunity, I really call it now the low-hanging fruit, because I'm the senior doctor in my practice, so I do see most of the presbyopes, but there's just so many of our presbyopes out there. Most of the presbyopic patients I see are candidates for this design, and it's all about raising awareness for those patients. I used to really only talk about multifocal lenses if the patient kind of brought up that they were interested in contacts. And I was really doing a disservice to my patient. The patient I would really never think to talk about multifocal contact lenses was the middle-aged man who never wore contacts and didn't bring it up to me. It wouldn't enter my realm of thought to bring up multifocal lenses, but I'll tell you, I had fit a mom in our neighborhood with the multifocal lenses. Her husband actually scheduled an appointment in to say, Pam, if Rose can wear these multifocal lenses, I want to try. And he was basically an emmetrope, and he was very sports active, especially with golfing on the weekends. I successfully fitted him in multifocal contacts. And guess what? He golfs with the same foursome every weekend. I got 2 more of that foursome in because they said if Steve could do it, I could do it. So crazy that I had to learn by a patient asking me for the contact lens fit instead of being proactive and asking my patient. So now in our office, we tell every presbyope that multifocal contact lenses exist, and let's see if we can make your life improved with those. So we identify more candidates in our practice because we simply give that message out from the time the patient calls in. We talk about, oh, we see that you wear multifocals. Did you know they're multifocal contacts? Let's talk to doctor about that when you come in. And we've really trained and empowered our staff to do that. So everyone has the message of multifocals. It would be a big faux pas in our practice if a presbyope, whether they're a really good candidate for contacts or not, didn't walk out of that practice knowing that at least those lenses exist. And can't say enough about Alcon as being an industry partner, because they really give us the tools and resources to help with our education of not only the patients, but of our staff. Again, getting those key messages out, what we want those key messages to look like, and great ways that you can just give a patient at check-in, to see if they have an interest level. And then when we do fit the patient, they really have a great informational sheet that you can send home with the patient so they can have realistic expectations about what to expect. So at this point, I would really like to take any questions from the group. So Adam, if we have any questions.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you for this, Pam. This was great. And yeah, so if anybody has any questions, again, feel free to type them right into that box, and we'll see if we can knock them down. First question that I see here, this is an interesting one. How do you handle an occasional social wearer of lenses as opposed to somebody who habitually wears lenses every day?
Yeah. So you know what? That's a great point that I didn't mention. I think patients and sometimes some of us doctors have the idea, well, if I'm going to fit contacts and go through all that, the patient really wants to be a gung-ho everyday wearer. I know patients feel that, oh, if I commit to contacts, it's going to be an everyday thing. That's why I love the single-use category. You can have weekend warriors in a very healthy lens that they just wear occasionally. And I actually point out to the patients, that's what I am. I'm basically emmetropic and presbyopic though. And I love the clarity of my glasses, of my progressives. I like the look of glasses. And to be honest, when I'm examining patients, I actually sell more glasses in the optical when I wear glasses. But I tell patients I'm a weekend warrior. I love my contacts when I ski or when I'm biking or hiking or when I go to a wedding and I don't want to take pictures with glasses on. So that's the amazing thing. These designs are so successful and on such a healthy single-use platform that the weekend warrior, it's great. They just open those lenses when they need them and toss them that night, and then they have a lens that's fresh and ready and waiting for them for the next time they want to use it. So yeah, capturing that occasional wear opportunity is really really essential.
Right. Question here, you mentioned that you get your whole staff involved in actually talking to folks about presbyopia. How do you go about breaking the news to someone? I mean, obviously some people know that they're presbyopic and they're getting old and they don't care. I mean, I obviously, when it happened to me, I'm like, oh gosh, I faced the reality immediately, but how do you actually approach a patient and not get them upset?
Yeah, that's great. So I tell my younger docs, and when I talk to other doctors who are much younger, who aren't presbyopic, I'm like, you have to be sensitive with that message. In fact, it's so funny. I was out consulting, and I get a text from one of the moms in our neighborhood. Our oldest kids grew up together, and it goes, "Lo, I have a bone to pick with you." And I'm thinking, I'm not even in Chicago. What is going on? So I call her back right away, and she goes, "I just saw your young associate, and don't get me wrong, he was great, but if someone's going to tell me I'm old, it's going to be you, not him." So my point being, it's easy for me to give the message as a fellow presbyope. I could say, "Oh, you know what? I'm right there with you. I know your pain," and that makes the message a little easier for my patient. But younger techs, younger doctors giving that message, again, you need to be gentle because we know patients feel old when you tell them that. So just break it to them gently. And like I said, we like to say, this would be weird if this didn't happen to you. All healthy, normal eyes start losing the ability to focus. But guess what? We have ways to manage it. Let's try this and see how you do.
Right. So a question here around cost. A person writes, they try to get all their patients into dailies as in its general practice, but it's an even harder sell for them or harder to mentally wrap their minds around asking people to go for a daily multifocal lens just because of the expense. Does this weigh into your thinking when you're talking to patients about it?
It used to, I don't know, as a profession, as optometrists, I don't know why we kind of have that, oh, my patient's not going to like me if I offer something or prescribe something expensive. But I really let the lens speak for itself and the experience of the lens speak for itself. Because you know what? How do I put a value on what the patient may want? I can't do that if I'm just talking about a price and not letting them experience it. Then I am putting myself as a salesperson, because if I'm basing my choice for them on cost, I'm not giving them the opportunity to find out what's valuable to them. So I simply tell a patient, I really don't talk cost. I talk the science behind what I'm choosing to prescribe for them. I talk about the benefits it's going to have for them. And then I say, let's put it on and see how it goes. So I think we have to get over ourselves as optometrists about thinking that, oh, my patient's not going to like me, or right off the bat, that's so expensive. How do I sell them, an annual supply of this? When really the lens will sell itself because the experience that it gives the patient. And what's so awesome, especially about the single-use lenses and even, the monthly replaceable, they're going to go and test drive that. We can give them 10 pairs to take home and see how they do. We can give them that monthly lens and see how they do at the end of the wear time. So really, I think it's a disservice not to offer your patient the opportunity to see what's valuable to them.
Right. And question here, this is an interesting question. You mentioned you'd give them a couple of strips of lenses, give them, several days to give it a good test drive. Do you ever give out more than one type? So for instance, do you, give out Dailies Total One and Dailies Aqua Comfort Plus and let them try back to back themselves?
Yeah, that's actually is one strategy that I know my colleagues have used. And I have them try that first, and then when I see them on follow up, if there happens to be any pushback with price or even though that lens 9 out of 10 people don't feel, if there's a comfort issue, I'm like, look, we have this other option, and it is a little bit more cost effective. Let's try the Dailies Aqua Comfort Plus and see how you do with that. So quite frankly, if price is a barrier, how cool is it that we say, okay, well, we have this other option in 12 pairs that we can give you. You will have the cost of solutions, but if that's more affordable for you, it's the same great design and the same great vision that you'll get.
Right. And you mentioned design earlier. You put up a picture of the design of the lenses. Question here, more of an observation, I guess. For Hyperopes, this doctor finds that they're pushing plus a little more with this design, maybe half a diopter more for a lot of their patients. Is that something that you found too?
Yeah, so the key in this this fitting guide, and I urge you, no matter what multifocal you're fitting, follow the fit guide, because the technology has changed and we can't use our old thought process and thinking on these new design lenses. But the key in Alcon's design is because of that transition we talked about being so smooth and kind of like an infinity pool. A lot of times those hyperopes especially are going to be sensitive to if they are looking through less plus or more minus. So if that lens physiologically fits on their eye where they happen to be seeing through past the power that we think they're looking through, it'll be less plus or more minus, so you will be able to push more plus. But the key in this lens is you always push plus. Even if the patient comes back and says, my distance is great, I need, or my near's great, but my distance isn't good, you push plus. It's very counterintuitive because they just may be sensitive to the distance, extra minus or less plus that they're seeing through, and their visual demands up close may not be as high. So always think with this Alcon design lens, it's always about pushing plus. So again, to that doctor, it's very normal that you may be getting more plus, especially on the older hyperope or hyperopes that have been undercorrected for a while, because they are actually looking through less plus.
Right. And question here, what do you do with your patients who are in monovision now?
Yeah, so this is what I do with any patient. Just like if we go to the cell phone store and our contract's up and we go in and they said, oh, how do you like your phone? And I say, well, it's been fine. Do you think they're going to offer me the same phone? I mean, they probably don't even make the same phone. So we do the same thing with our lenses and our optical and especially contacts. So my current monovision patients, they may even say they do fine. And I say, look, you know what? Technology has changed. It's all about using your eyes as a team. And I will try to convert them to a multifocal lens. And I'm very successful at it the majority of the time. I will tell you there are some patients that just do better in monovision. Their brain may be used to it, and that's great too. So I will switch them. I will try a multifocal lens to see if it's successful.
Right. Oh, interesting question here, looking at it from another perspective. Is there any presbyopic patient that you really wouldn't consider for these lenses straight out of the chute just by looking at them?
Yeah, that's a great point. We used to say, well, emmetropes are harder to fit or low hyperopes, or if they have astigmatism, right, that's going to be too hard to fit. Well, I found that with this aspheric design, especially on like the DT1 with its silicone core and the Air Optics with Hydroglide, that has a silicone like stiffer modulus. And so I fit 1.25 diopter astigmatism all day long. I've gone as high as 150 if it's more in one eye, not 150 in both. But although I have tried it and surprisingly it works. And again, if they're a higher myope, you know, when you vertex correct, that still is going to be less in the beginning. But yeah, don't shy away from it because the design of these lenses just, so there's really, it's very rare, you know, unless they're highly astigmatic, that they're not going to be a good candidate for this lens. And that's why every patient before they leave, again, whether they've worn contacts or not, and I see that prescription definitely is in the wheelhouse of what this lens can do. I make a note, talk to patient about single-use disposable multifocal lenses, and sometimes they won't bite at it that year, but at least they know about it. And I've had patients come back on follow-ups and say, I remember you told me about those lenses, I'm ready to try them. So again, it's just important to not pigeonhole our patients, knowing these designs are very forgiving, especially when it comes to lower amounts of SIL.
Right. And a question here, are the lenses easy to handle, particularly for older patients?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we know that if we are going with the DT1, that water gel surface, you do have to have very dry fingers putting it in and taking it out. And as long as you educate the patient that handling really isn't an issue, it tends to be fine. It's when we fall short and not talk to that patient who may be a tried and true contact lens wearer, and at the end of their day, they are wearing older technologies that, you know, are going to be super dry by day's end. Those things can almost walk out of their eyes, right? It doesn't matter if you have a little moisture on your finger. So if they're in DT1, I'll always tell them super dry fingers when you put it in, super dry fingers when you take it out. And for me, on that design, it's very important that they don't just try to pinch it right off the cornea, that they actually look up and pull it down onto the sclera, or look towards their nose and pull it down on their temporal sclera, and then pinch off with dry fingers. And quite frankly, if they are well educated on that, I have seen no problem. And I haven't had any handling issues at all with that nice monthly Air Optics design. It has a stiff core, and there are usually no handling issues with that.
Okay, so let me see if we got any more questions here. I think we've hit on all the big topics. Do you have any sort of closing pieces of advice you'd like to give to everyone?
Yeah, just again, it's all about education of all the doctors in the practice, all our staff, and ourselves, obviously, being open to really spreading the message that presbyopia is a normal, healthy change in life, but guess what? It doesn't have to make us feel any more emotional than we need to. And there's great options for patients, whether they're an everyday wearer or a weekend warrior like I am. It's just so really great that we finally have good options for our patients. And it's just a shame if we're not taking that opportunity to really wow a patient population that has the want and need to give themselves visual freedom.
All right, well, great. Well, Pam, thank you so much for this. And, a copy of this webinar is going to be up on ODwire. We'll have a discussion thread afterwards, and I hope you come on back and maybe answer a few questions.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Thank you so much.